How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Recycled Primates. I want to do a quick little video, or try to make it quick, just a little bit of my background so that you know my involvement in music, audio engineering, and pro audio, all that stuff. And, you know, just to let you know. I have some bullet points over here, so if I'm looking over here, that I'm just trying to keep on track. I am a multi-instrumentalist musician. I play drums. I play electric guitar, both 6 and 7 string. Not that there's a difference. It's electric guitar. I play acoustic guitar, which is different from electric guitar. I play steel and a little bit of nylon. I play bass guitar, 4 and 5 string. I play a little bit of banjo, a little bit of mandolin, a little bit of mountain dulcimer, a little berimbau, a little bit of keys, and I'm a singer. I have my own, what I call crooner punk rock. It's think of like if Chris Isaac sang for the Ramones. That's kind of what I do. Something I invented when I was a kid and revived about 5 years ago. That's the main thing that I record now. You know, but I play drums, guitars, bass, vocals, keys. I produce everything, engineer everything, mix, master, all that good stuff. And these are all skills that I've accumulated over the years. When I was very young, like 12, 13 years old, I had a PV amp, an Ibanez guitar, and a boombox with a microphone input. And I just set up that microphone in the room, and I'd sit there and play my guitar and sing. And that was like the first iteration of anything I did as far as a one-man band or a band or anything like that, which was really funny because back then I was massively into like Testament, Overkill, Slayer, Megadeth, Metallica, Anthrax, all that stuff. So I'm sitting there doing like thrash metal and it's just guitar and vocals. I'm still a huge Megadeth fan, and you might see something fun in future videos regarding that. But yeah, so that's how it started. Later on, I won a Tascam Portastudio 424 4-track cassette recorder. I think I was 14 when it happened, when I won that. I still have it, and that's how I started out. And got a work release waiver, got my first job, and started buying other gear. I had a Remo pre-tuned drum kit and an RP5 Digitech processor, my TubeWorks amp right there that I still have. And that's how I started out. I'd mic up my drums and mix it on my Mackie mixer, and it was drums mono right up the center on track 1. Guitar panned out to the left, guitar with a pitch shifter playing on one string to be the bass guitar because I didn't own a bass guitar, and that was panned out to the right, and then vocals right up the center. And that's, you know, where I started doing my own music. And it was when I still had the 4-track that I created my punk rock persona and project. Saved up money over the years, like 2 years, bought a Tascam 8-track cassette recorder, which I still have, and started making serious demos. And I had a death metal project and my punk rock project, and I started taking demos into school, and people were like, dude, that's badass, can you record our band? Or hey, you want to start a band, or this, that. And I started recording other people, recording my bands. Even at one point in time, I would go to like friends parties, you know, on weekends or whatever, and it would be me, my electric guitar, and my 8-track, and my 8-track was the backing tracks, and I would perform for people that way. And I had a good friend who I'm still friends with, who's an extremely talented musician, and he got into digital audio before me, introducing me to like Rebirth and Fruity Loops, you know, now Fruity Studio. And his brother was a brilliant classical composer who did a lot of MIDI work. So they got me into digital recording or digital audio pretty early. And they had a friend who ran a computer store, introduced us, we became friends. And in '99, I built my first, with him, I built my first audio computer. I only did like hardware assistance, and he did all the software stuff because I didn't understand that at that point in time. But between him and my brother, I learned a lot about computers, and ever since then I've built my own audio computers, which is exactly why nothing goes wrong in my studio. And I'm very thankful for that. I got a Echo Audio Darla 24 with that computer, and it came with Cool Edit Pro. So I was recording on my 8-track cassette recorder, mixing on it, and then going into the Darla, because there's only 2 inputs. I went into that and that's into Cool Edit Pro, and that's how I started releasing CDs. And that was cool. Instead of doing, cassettes and stuff, I was releasing my own CDs. And my punk rock project, I had 3 albums. Well, 1 album and 2 EPs. And then that got shelved for, a prog rock and metal project that I was in. But I later moved over to a Echo Audio Layla 24, so now I had 8 in and 8 out, and that was when I really kind of went digital, though not fully. I was always kind of skeptical of digital, and but I knew that I was really enjoying audio engineering and the experimentation and the craft and the art side of that, and how it was expanding me as a musician and what I could do. And I was thinking, hey, I'd like to become an audio engineer and work on my own stuff. And I went to the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences, graduated from there, tried to relocate to other places, but ended up moving back here, where I worked and interned, then worked at a local studio. Unfortunately, no longer around, but I'm still friends with the guy who owned it, and so we're still in touch with each other. I contracted with a live sound company here, still connected with musicians and so forth, and recorded or mixed or mastered their stuff. Worked with friends, coworkers, etc. Moved to a few different states. So for a very long time, I've run my studio commercially, and I still do, which I'll get into in a second. But yeah, I've worked with bands in other states, mostly doing a lot of live sound stuff, taking like splits off the front of house and like recording multi-track, and then taking it home and mixing and mastering it. I've worked with a lot of different stuff, mostly rock and roll and heavy metal. That's, punk rock and heavy metal is kind of really my forte. But I have done ska, jazz, worked with military musicians, done classical, a little bit of hip hop, a little bit of electronic based music, more of like that 80s synth pop kind of music. I've done editing for semi-pro ballroom dancer, groups. I do a lot of that kind of stuff. I still do. I won't track anybody unless I've known you for over a decade. All right. But because remote work is completely possible with Dropbox, WeTransfer, and Google Drive, even Proton Drive, I still do editing, mixing, and mastering for anybody who wants to see if we can work together. So if you're into punk, metal, thrash, death metal, any of that stuff, and you need somebody to edit, mix, or master your stuff, maybe we can work something out. Feel free to reach out to me. So that's a little bit about, I've mostly done freelance stuff. I've worked at a couple studios, most predominantly the one here that's no longer around. I've always just more liked being on my own and not tied down. So I've done more contracting than anything. So after moving to other states and working with people, I came back here and reconnected with like old coworkers, found out they were in a band, but one guy didn't have a drummer, so I recorded his album. He had most of it recorded. We did a lot of overdubs, and then I put real drums to it, mixed and mastered everything for him, that kind of stuff. I've always liked working with independent people. Even the company that I own and run is meant for helping individuals and doing small stuff, not trying to do any big scale things, because I really like cultivating personal art and stuff like that. I've worked with people who've gotten famous. I know people who are very successful, but that's just, I'm not enough of a people person, and I'm not political enough to get into that kind of stuff. So, one of my childhood friends who I reconnected on when I worked at the studio here, I worked as the assistant engineer on the last album he had a pretty successful regional band, and I worked on their last album, and then he ended up joining a very successful international act that does really good stuff. It's not my style of music, but it's really good for what it is, and I like it. It's fun. And outside of that, I worked in pro audio as a gear specialist and salesman for 17 years. I did demo videos and review videos. For a long time, I did it from my home studio. I've used more gear than most people could name. I've used a ton of gear, and I know what's good, what's not, what's just like, hey, it's good, but why does it exist when this exists? I've seen the scams because the audio industry nowadays is run by marketing, companies and businessmen. It's not run by audio engineers and electrical engineers like it should be. It's become very greedy and quite toxic. And for those reasons and many other reasons, I left a year ago and started my own company. But I love audio, and I want to share my point of view for those who find it relevant, because I know I'm not the only one who's old school, but I see things and I know things from the inside. Like, it's like you have a mid-priced microphone that's made in China that's supposed to be an alternative to a very, very expensive microphone. And that Chinese mic's not terrible, but it doesn't even compare to the mic that it's trying to replicate. And you look at the price of it, but you can get a blemished one for like 50-60% less. And you're like, well, 2 and 2. If I can get 50-60% off on it because it has a physical defect, then it's not worth the price tag that the marketing company behind it wants. So I prefer trying to find real gear, and I don't care about price tag. I mean, behind me I have an FMR RNC, which I've had since like 2002. And I also have a Universal Audio LA2A. One's like was like a $200 compressor, and the other one's like currently I think close to $7,000. It's like $6,000 or something like that. I don't care about names. I don't care about price tags. I care about if the gear's good. What does it do? Do I like it, and how can I use it? And is it going to last me a long time? That's what I've always cared about, is finding the right gear. But between going to the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences and working in the pro audio industry for 17 years and using a lot of gear, I've also gotten a lot of certifications, which I can't remember them all, so I'm going to read them off real quick. Certified by Avid in Pro Tools, though I don't use it. I'm a Samplitude guy. I've been certified by Waves, Propellerhead, ImageLine, Presonus, Smart. I use Magic Samplitude. I think it's now Boris Effects Samplitude. But I had a short sponsorship from Magix. And most recently, I've been certified by them a few times, but most recently, just last year, I got recertified by Focusrite in RedNet Core and Advanced. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight. Again, if you're looking for demo, review, project, behind the scenes, creativity, philosophy discussions, things like that in regards to audio engineering, hope you will join, subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. And there'll be some fun stuff coming down the road, which I'll address, especially when it comes to my demo videos. But I'll address all that in the future. Appreciate your time. If you made it this far, you're a rare breed. Thank you, and until the next one, take care.